Hey, what's up and how's it going, everyone? Well, I'm so glad that you have took your time to spend with me right here today on the MRB Wrestling Review Show. I am your co-host, Mike McRock Wilson, and we just saw TNA Impact Wrestling from Little Rock, Arkansas. And the show kicked off when Bully Ray came out to the ring and mentioned about, some things that are going on within the organization. Based on what happened last week when we saw Dixie Carter made that heel turn and really got the fans to boo her, to get that heat, to take that heat. And what better way to get more heat when you have the most hated guy in professional wrestling talking about you like you're the main evil head honcho of a wrestling company. I think that alone speaks a lot of volumes. And with that being said, I like how Bully Ray mentioned that it was Dixie Carter that made AJ Styles the phenomenal one, amongst other things, in which I thought were absolutely incredible. And for that reason being, that Dixie Carter will now get more hate based on what the most hated guy in TNA and any wrestling company said about you. So to me, I thought that was just genius on the part of Bully Ray. And then shortly after, he mentioned about Dixie Carter and his match with AJ Styles coming up at Bound for Glory. We see, the three guys come out and interrupt Bully Ray. The rest of the Aces and Eights group, Knox, Wes Briscoe, and Garrett Bischoff. And what I really like about, the pairing of just these three guys is that of Knox. It feels like that Knox is the guy who's kind of being the mouthpiece of that threesome group, without having to do with the president of the club, Bully Ray. And for that reason, I think, he's the guy that stands out now in Aces and Eights. I like that he's talking more like he did on this show last night, and Bully Ray making him look like the guy who will be probably put in a rivalry with Bully Ray after Bound for Glory. I think, that door is left open for a reason. And I think for some strange reason that we'll see something play out between Knox and Bully Ray sometime in the future after Bound for Glory. And the only reason why I say after Bound for Glory is because let's just concentrate on this matchup coming now between Bully and AJ. And the funny thing is, throughout this show, we don't see any interaction at all between Bully Ray and AJ Styles. And so far, I'm liking it because you have Bully Ray with the story with these other three members of Aces and Eights, and you have this story between AJ Styles and Dixie Carter, and now putting Hulk Hogan in that situation, which I'll get to later on. I think those two stories in itself are very interesting, and it kind of ties into this one match where they don't have any interaction, which I think is a little weird. But I do like these two sub-stories that's going on in TNA. And I like how, they're going to foreshadow this new plot end of a chapter with another Aces and Eights member being gone. The Knox mentions that there's going to be a 3-on-3 main event. It will be the Aces and Eights versus the Main Event Mafia, Sting, Joe, and Magnus. And then for Bully Ray to plant that seed of who will be the next one to go is just absolutely incredible, because you don't know which one will go. And the only thing that would probably kill that story is for Knox to go because of what he's been doing for the past couple of weeks. So I think it's either going to be Wes Briscoe or Garrett Bischoff that gets the boot out of the Aces and Eights club. And when we got to the main event match between the Aces and Eights and Main Event Mafia, we see Ego come out and, be that, distraction factor. And I like where it was placed as well, because that really didn't have to be the deciding factor, because there was something else going on when Bully Ray stated, hey, if one of you loses the match between the Main Event Mafia, you're gone. And so with that being said, I like how when the time Ego came out, taking out Magnus, and plotting that storyline where Magnus wants to get revenge on Bobby Roode, which will probably lead to a match at Bound for Glory. And with that being said, after the match, we saw Bully Ray come out and basically get the Aces and Eights, Knox, of all people, to give Wes Briscoe his cut after Bully Ray pile drive Briscoe, and that just looked horrible. The way he was with his head and neck, that just made me cringe, that move. No wonder people hardly use that move in the ring. But anyway, I like that this happened, because it's another chapter that's closed right now. Another Aces and Eights member gone. There's only 3 more left. We got Knox, Briscoe, and Taz, and not including the president, Bully Ray. So odds are the next couple of weeks before Bound for Glory, another guy will be gone. I'd say next week will be the end for Garrett Bischoff. The Bromans, Robbie E. and Jesse, teaming up with Gail Kim to take on Eric Young, Joseph Park, and the new Knockouts champion ODB. Now we understand that Mickie James will not get a rematch because her TNA contract is now up. And from what I understand, she refused another contract for other things as well. I don't know the full details, but you can actually go to a site called NoDQ.com to get the latest on everything WWE and TNA. Little undercut promotion there. And with that being said, that kind of sucks on the part of, I was looking forward to seeing this rematch that could happen at Bound for Glory, but I do like something that might play out, hopefully. And before I get to that, need I say that the Bromans actually looked pretty good in this match. I thought that even though they feel like, the most goofiest team on the Impact Wrestling roster, they actually were pretty good throughout that match, taking in the heat, doing whatever they could in the ring, and actually making something look worth watching. I thought that was pretty good on the part of the Bromans. And with that being said, the joke team is Eric Young and Joseph Park, because we see something that might happen between these guys that could lead to a one-on-one confrontation where Joseph Park gets bloodied and he somehow attacks Eric Young. Even though this didn't happen tonight, I could see it coming up in the future. And this match was actually a 6-person mixed tag team match. It was the Bromans and Gail Kim versus Eric Young, Joseph Park, and ODB. And the funny thing about this was that I really felt bad for Gail Kim in that match, because she's supposed to be a serious character, a serious wrestler. We know she can go in the ring. She's actually one of the best knockouts, not only in TNA, but in any wrestling company. She is that great. And with that being said, I don't know why they paired her up with the Bromans, for that reason. I thought that was a slap in the face. I just kind of didn't like what they done. Just the booking of that. and she was the only one that, you know, didn't fit in with all those people. And on the other side of that, ODB just fits in really well. And what could lead is that Gail Kim and ODB might as well have a one-on-one match for the Knockouts Championship at Bound for Glory, because let's face it, there's hardly any knockouts anymore. We don't see Taryn Terrell, and they're putting Velvet Sky in the back, which I will get to later on. And it kind of sucks for this division, because a few years ago this division was absolutely great, and now it's just kind of really gone downhill. And I'm not really impressed with that on the part of TNA's, you know, creativity, I guess. And so hopefully something happens. Hopefully we get more knockouts. Bring back some knockouts. Angelina Love and Winter if you have to get this. Or even Karen Jarrett. Bring back her just to get this ball rolling with the knockouts division, and have Karen Jarrett come back as the manager when she was before. I think, you know, stuff like that they should be doing. They don't. It sucks. It's horrible. Move on. Alright. After that, we saw Austin Aries in the ring, and, you know, we see him backstage before he comes out, and, you know, they ask him, alright, what's next for Austin Aries? But before he got to that, he was interrupted by Kenny King, of all people. I thought that was a little weird, but it actually played out quite good, because I thought, you know, their dialogue back and forth was pretty interesting. And I like how, you know, Kenny King mentions that I'm the future of this company, and 10 years, and he mentions about, you know, Austin Aries, 10 years ago you might have been the future, but now I'm the future of the next generation. And it's interesting he mentioned that, because 10 years ago, or at least, you know, over 10 years ago, Austin Aries was a well-known superstar in the independent scene in Ring of Honor, and Kenny King is fresh out of Ring of Honor. He's only, you know, he just jumped from one company to another in like a month or something weird like that. And I thought that was pretty interesting, I thought. And you know, just that, you know, idea of two guys coming out, exchanging words, and it turns into a match. I think stuff like that is really incredible. It's old school kind of thing, and it actually played out really well, because Austin Aries, after that match, got the victory over Kenny King. And we see backstage after that match, you know, him and Chris Sabin having a little back and forth interaction. You know, Chris Sabin said he is better than the best in the world, and we see Austin Aries say, let's put that to the test. Let's see where that goes. And it kind of ties into what I'm about to talk about right now, because Chris Sabin had a match with Manic for the X Division Championship. And with Velvet Sky in his corner, I have to say, before I get into this match, that is a huge problem already. I don't think Velvet Sky should be in the back as a manager or anyone's main squeeze, as Taz would call it, because Velvet Sky should be in front in the Knockouts division, competing for the Knockouts Championship, and it sucks that TNA is actually doing this. I'm appalled. But what can you do? That's TNA's fault that they're doing this to Velvet Sky, and it sucks. And with that being said, I think that, you know, knockouts like ODB and Gail Kim should be involved with competing with Velvet Sky as well. You know, like I said, with the Knockouts Championship, yeah, it does suck. But, you know, having this X Division Championship match, I thought was great. We see another X Division match before it. I thought it was pretty good, so we got to see 2 X Division matches. The only thing that I'm nitpicking a bit is that I thought that the match between Austin Aries and Kenny King was a little bit better than the X Division Championship match. For some weird reason, I thought that the X Division match wasn't as exciting as that old school 2 guys talking and it turns into a fight. It kind of fell flat in that sense, but at least something good came out of it, because after Manic got the victory over Chris Sabin, we see Chris Sabin, attacking Manic from behind, after the match, and we see Austin Aries come out to the rescue. And we're building up to this match between Austin Aries and Chris Sabin. I don't know yet if they're going to put Manic in the middle of this situation. And that'd be interesting to see. Putting the champion right in the middle of a rivalry between 2 X Division superstars and 2, well-known TNA superstars in Austin Aries and Chris Sabin. I thought something like that would be really off, but also pretty interesting in the same time, and we'll see how this goes weeks to come going into Bound for Glory within the X Division. Also, we see backstage, where what's his name, Sting was talking to Magnus, giving him some advice. We see Magnus is still affected by the loss between Bobby Roode and this group called Ego, with Daniels and Kazarian, and him losing the Bound for Glory series in the final match. So you could tell that something's going to give now with Magnus. Is he going to turn heel? It's a possibility, because we see Sting giving advice to Magnus, and it almost feels like it's a teacher giving advice to the student turns on the teacher. Something like that may go along those lines, and I think that would be an interesting angle for Magnus, because Magnus as a babyface is not very believable on the microphone, and I think if Magnus were to turn heel and talk on the microphone, it might just come out natural. So, with that being said, I think that would be the right way to go for Magnus. Building up this loss after loss after loss, and he would be so fed up with it, he just turns on the Main Event Mafia and forms this rivalry with either Samoa Joe or Sting. I would rather see Sting and put Joe in there as a subplot to build up to this match at Bound for Glory, where it's like teacher versus student. So things like that, I think, will probably be the right way to go in the part of the storyline aspect on TNA Impact Wrestling. Also on the show, we saw Hulk Hogan in the ring addressing, what's going to happen between AJ Styles and Dixie Carter. This match happened at the hour, right in the middle of the show. And he says he's going to get to the bottom of it, fix this thing once and for all. The only thing I didn't like about this segment is that all we needed was something backstage. Hulk Hogan, answers the interviewer when the interviewer asks a question, where the interviewer asks Hulk Hogan, hey, what's going to happen between you, Dixie Carter, and AJ Styles when you get to the ring? And I would imagine him saying, I will get to the bottom of this, as opposed to, putting him in the ring and dragging out a 5-minute segment. I would rather have that backstage segment where he says that for 30 seconds than a segment that drags out for 5 or 10 minutes long. And that's the only nitpicky thing I kind of didn't like about that show, but at least it kind of, they had to fill that void for that, middle segment gap. So that was probably the right way to go. But all in all, I thought it was something that could have been filled by something else. I don't know what, but something else could have filled it. And when we got to the final segment on the show, we saw Hulk Hogan make his way to the ring, and AJ Styles comes out. Hulk Hogan gives AJ Styles a new contract because we all know that AJ Styles, his contract is pretty much gone. It's up, and I like how they're playing on these real life stories in the story in TNA. Keeping it real as possible, being realistic, and what I like about that final segment was that when Dixie Carter came out, everyone just booed her. And the cool thing was, Bully Ray earlier was giving her the rub off. So she got even more boos when she came out and when she was cutting a promo on the microphone. And the cool thing was, I'm nitpicking. Dixie Carter last week, it was good. Her heel turn was good. The only thing I'm nitpicking was that she's a little bit bad at her acting, but on this show she was a little bit better. It's still rusty, but it was still better than last week's. And what happened was that Hulk Hogan gave AJ Styles a new contract. AJ Styles signs it. Dixie Carter comes out and she says a few words, and then she rips up the contract. And shortly after, Dixie Carter gives Hulk Hogan an ultimatum about if you want to be on Team Dixie or will you not be, and just be watching from the sidelines and you're gone. And like I said, being it real as possible. If you don't know yet, the word is spreading on the internet about Hulk Hogan's contract being up in a couple of weeks, and I think right now what they're doing is pretty smart, putting that on the table in that final segment when Dixie Carter mentioned it. And I think that this is going to go somewhere where I think it's going to be a good outcome for AJ Styles, but probably a weird one for Hulk Hogan. I don't know if Hulk Hogan will make it till Bound for Glory. We'll see what happens within the next couple of weeks, with this whole thing with AJ Styles, Dixie Carter, and Hulk Hogan. But as of now, that final segment, I thought that was incredible. The way Hulk Hogan and Dixie Carter went back and forth a little bit was pretty interesting. And if you never read Hulk Hogan's book, you would understand that Hulk Hogan actually owns a part of TNA, and that was never really mentioned by Dixie Carter, and no one kind of really knows that. And so I thought that was a little weird that they kind of didn't bring it up because, trying to be as realistic as possible. That was one of those things that they could have brought up in that promo. And I'm kind of surprised that they didn't. But, I understand they didn't because we got the point across. Hulk Hogan has an ultimatum now. We got to hear from him next week to see what he decides, what he's going to do, if he's going to go on Team Dixie or where he's going to go. We all know Hulk Hogan. He's the guy that's been around forever. He put wrestling on the map. And I just can't see him being on Team Dixie at this point in his career. I think the Hulk Hogan will be done with TNA and will probably go back to the other company. And that was my review of TNA Impact Wrestling for the MRB Wrestling Review Show. I'm your co-host, Mike McRock Wilson. To all you viewers watching, get plenty of rest and always do your best.